I used to panic about coming up with real ideas, spend hours filming them, setting up, tearing down equipment, then look back at the reels I'd made and think they were rubbish. I was forcing content out and not really providing any value to anyone. I wasn't earning people's attention, I was trying to take it. So here are the key principles I'm using going forward for my content and the early signs that I think it might be working. If you haven't seen video 1 in the series, Station Decimus is a push your luck card game that I'm hoping to launch in May next year. This series is here to document all the things I'm trying to do to build an email list before then, while spending £0 on digital adverts. Let's dive into what's changed since the last one. So we'll start with the mailing list, which is the key metric I'm measuring this whole series in. I have gone from 40 emails to 59. That is almost a 50% increase in just 3 weeks. You might be wondering how, and I think I have a few ideas as to what's caused this, which I'll go on to later in the video. Kickstarter followers are up from 39 to 45. It's a small increase, but one I'm quite pleased with. I'm unsure at this point whether that's organic followers from the Kickstarter platform or people who've seen some of my content. Convention demos remains unchanged and probably will for the majority of this series. YouTube subscribers are up to 24 from 9, so this is quite a big increase and one that I'm really pleased to see. We've also had 3 more members of the Discord community. We're now up to 10. It sounds small, but as I've mentioned before, this is a really great resource for me and just a nice group of people to have a chat with. So what's helped move those numbers? I think largely so far it's been my content strategy, which is what we're going to be focusing on in this video. I mentioned before the old strategy, trying to come up with reels every week, posting them to Instagram and realizing I hated most of them. My new strategy is built around 4 key principles that I kept coming back to when I was wondering why my Instagram strategy wasn't working before. Number 1, go to where people are and try and communicate with them in the way they want to be communicated with. Number 2, earn the right to get people's attention and don't just demand it. Principle 3 is to do it sustainably. I need to make sure I don't burn myself out over the 12 months trying to get this strategy in place, and also make sure that it's financially sustainable. So everything I discuss in this post will be around free software that I've used to try and get my content strategy going. Number 4, and key to this whole thing really, is to let people play the game and let the game do the talking. Don't try and shove content down people's throat, but let them discover the game, and if they're interested, play it. The rest of this video is how I'm trying to implement that and how I think it's working so far, starting with the old strategy and how that actually broke 3 of the 4 principles. Instagram was the starting point because it felt like a natural place to be. I was already on Instagram for other things such as miniature painting, and there was a big board game community there posting pictures of games. In hindsight though, posting things on Instagram just because other board gamers are there, regardless of what the content is, isn't necessarily trying to reach people where they want to in the way they want to. Posting 3 or 4 times a week was significant effort. I'd actually spend time panicking around what I was going to post that week, and if I missed posting schedules, I'd worry what I was going to do to make up for it and try and do extra reels or posts in following weeks. In hindsight, this was not a sustainable approach, especially in the constraints of providing value. So coming up with ideas was easy, but trying to come up with ideas where I could convey something that I thought would provide value to people in only 60 seconds or so was particularly tricky. On the internet, no one owes you their attention and no one owes you their trust as a board game designer. So putting your own game out there in front of people and saying, look how great this game is, isn't really going to get you many fans. Being able to talk about games, talk about your board game design journey and provide actual insights into things is far more likely to get people interested in you and hopefully your project. Letting them play the game as per principle 4 is the way that you turn those interested people into hopefully potential backers. So now, whenever I'm producing content, I'm asking myself one question. Does this piece of content provide genuine value to people? And not specifically people who may then want to back my game, even those who don't. Of course, in this content, people will hear things about my game, and hopefully over time they might find some of it interesting and want to play it. That's a nice side effect of this approach, but not the key principle here. If people hear about the game and decide that's not for me, hopefully they still find the content valuable and continue watching. A good example of this would be the publisher pitching tips. Several designers have reached out to me to say how useful they found this video. They might not be invested in Station Decimus at all, and that's fine. They still get value from the video and it still helps them in their own board game design journey. On to the actual strategy then, and it all starts with YouTube videos. And there's a very specific reason for this. Principle 2, around making sure I'm providing value, is much easier for me to do in a longer form video. I find it much easier to naturally provide information in this kind of format than I do in shorts or reels. So for me personally, this is the way I try and provide real value. And to be completely honest here, I had never made YouTube videos before, so this is all new to me, but was a very deliberate choice because I found I wasn't able to get the messages across clearly the way I wanted to on other platforms. Short form videos on platforms like Instagram forced me to either try and come up with smaller ideas or to try and condense down all of my thinking into 60 seconds, and this is something I just didn't find feasible. And another slightly more selfish reason is I find longer form YouTube videos are more enjoyable to make. Letting an idea breathe a bit and giving myself the time and space to explore it in a bit more depth is far more enjoyable to me than trying to get out a 60-second snippet with a tiny bit of information in it. So the whole process from ideation, filming, editing is far more enjoyable for me, which leads into principle 3 and sustainability. The YouTube videos themselves then serve two main purposes. Number one is providing credibility to myself as a board game designer. So hopefully if people watch some of the mechanic-based videos or the publisher pitching videos, they'll think I sound like I might know a little bit about what I'm talking about. And that might give them a bit more confidence to see if Station Decimus is a game they want to play and hopefully back. Number two is that it's also an organic way of reaching new people. So people will stumble across these videos, hopefully find them interesting, and again be interested in the game. Or if not, they might at least find some useful insights from it. And the final argument for sustainability of YouTube videos is that with a bit of editing, you can take a long form YouTube video and try to find a handful of those short form clips from it that can be useful on other platforms. This is something I've been playing around with, and surprisingly, it seems easier to do it this way round than to come up with 4 or 5 reels organically in a week. As I mentioned, sustainability includes costs. So what am I using for this? I'm currently filming on my phone. I bought a £12 microphone from Amazon. I already happen to have a tripod and a painting light, which have been repurposed for this. And all the software I'm using is free. I use DaVinci Resolve for all of my editing, as it has a host of tools you can use, and I've never found anything I've wanted to do that I couldn't in it. I also actually use Google Slides for creating the overlays, such as the number ones, for showing how my numbers have changed. You can export Google Slides as PNGs with transparent backgrounds, and it makes it really easy to create very simple overlays like that. But full transparency, while it is quite sustainable on money, it's slightly less sustainable on time. As I said though, at the moment, this is an enjoyable process, so I'm not too concerned about burnout, but it is something I'm keeping an eye on. The ideation process happens ad hoc, and I regularly take notes on things that I'm thinking of. So with this in mind, I have a whole host of videos coming up that I already have planned out. That bit though is quite hard to measure how long it takes. This could be anywhere between half an hour and an hour per video, sometimes longer if I need to do extra research. Filming itself can take up to about half an hour for a 10 to 15 minute video. Then the editing process takes a chunk of the time. This can be about an hour before thumbnails and descriptions, titles, those kind of things, which can easily take another 20 minutes or so. So all in all, best part of 2 hours per video. And at the rate I'm currently producing them, that's 2 hours per week. Other methods of distribution I'll get onto later in this video, are things like creating shorts from the long form videos, posting to my website as an article, and trying to engage in BGG forums around the topics I'm talking about. This probably adds up to around another 2 hours total, taking the total to 4 to 4.5 hours a week per video. So it's no small amount of time, and it is getting faster the more I do it, but it's worth being frank about that while I'm saving money on advertising with this approach, I'm definitely costing myself more in time. So this leads nicely on to principles 3 and 1 in practice. Principle 3 is to do it sustainably, and principle 1 is to meet people where they want to be met and talk in the way they like to be talked to. By taking my one video per week, I can distribute that and engage with people in different ways. Principle 1 in practice. After my quarterbacking video went up, I went to the BGG forum and posted a very short blog post in the board game design forum asking for people's opinions on whether or not they agreed that quarterbacking was a player problem or a game design problem. This sparked a huge discussion, and last time I checked there were 50-something comments on the blog, which was a really great sign. People were engaging with it. It wasn't self-promotion, it was a genuine question and a way to engage with the community. Of course, I dropped some links to my blog and to the video on there if people wanted to see more about my opinion, but largely I just wanted to discuss with other board game designers, and I found it really valuable. I've learned a lot based on other people's opinions around games that I haven't played or even heard of in some cases. So this has been really valuable for me, and it appears as though it's been quite valuable for the board game design community. In principle 1, that is me going to a place where board game designers already are and talking to them about board game design. And a special shout out here to BGG, where it's one of the only places on the internet I've seen 50 comments disagreeing with each other on a topic without any mudslinging. So as I said before, you can't just stand in one place shouting out your opinions. It's important to go to where people are and engage with them the way they want to be engaged with. Next up, I take the long form video of the week and try and chop it up into 3 to 5 shorts. Now, the way I've done this has evolved over time and increased slightly with effort, but hopefully to a better outcome. When I first started out, I tried using some free AI tools designed to take long form videos and produce shorts from them. For a while, I started publishing these, and then I looked back on them and saw that I was really breaking principle 2, and I wasn't providing any value to anyone. I was just putting out content for the sake of it. With this in mind, I then tried a slightly different approach. So rather than watching the whole video again, I exported the transcript from YouTube and popped that into an LLM to give me an idea of which sections looked like they might provide value. I'd get it to provide me 5 to 7 of these, and I'd then manually audit them to make sure they did make sense on their own and they actually provided value. This approach seems to be working so far and is saving me a lot of time. I'll then spend 20 to 30 minutes chucking them into edits and producing 3 to 5 videos for the week. And these will be the same videos across a host of platforms. Those platforms are Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. TikTok is a platform I'd never used before and I'm still learning, so it's yet to be seen whether or not I'm quite meeting the audience in the way they want to be met there. And again, YouTube Shorts is one that I've not used before, having never created content for YouTube, and one I'm still getting the hang of. I very intentionally disable subscriber notifications here. While I want to talk to my subscribers, that's what my long form videos are for. My short form videos, however, are a way of directing people to the long form videos, so my subscribers would be bored if every day they got a notification saying I'd posted a short, which was just a snippet of a long form video they'd already seen. As well as BGG and those short videos, I try to produce a written article every week which discusses exactly the same things I've been discussing in my videos. Some people prefer long form written content, and that's a completely valid thing. So I want to make sure I can provide value to them as well as those who prefer videos. This also gives me a nice in for SEO, so search engine optimization. It's not something I'm super familiar with, but it's basically the idea of if people are searching for a specific topic on the internet, how likely is your website to show up? If you search for Space Slug Games, there's a high chance you'll find the Space Slug Games website. If you search for how to design a board game, I will probably not appear in the first 100 pages. So by producing more of these articles and having people find them genuinely useful, joining links to them from other websites, things like that, the more likely I am to show up in those search results, and the higher the chance that I can reach a wider community. Again, though, the aim is reach as many people as possible, and then let the content do the talking to convince them whether or not they want to try my game, before letting the game do the talking around whether or not they want to back. Again, LLMs can be quite useful here because they can do basic SEO checks on your articles. So take the content you've produced, chuck it into an LLM and say, how does it score against these kind of things? And it might suggest you new phrases or terms that you want to include in your article to increase how likely it is to be picked up by search engines. It can also provide things like where you should be linking to external things, which is another part of SEO. A big caveat about these articles, though, is I created my website for free using Google Sites. So I've paid for the domain, but the actual hosting itself is completely free from Google. This seems great in principle, but in practice, it can harm SEO. So a lot of the finer tuning of SEO is around setting things like metadata on pages, and Google Sites doesn't give you that granularity of control. So at some point, I may need to consider migrating to a paid hosting service. I haven't hit that point yet, though, and will decide when I get there. Going on to the last couple of ways I try and engage with people. My Discord server, this is a much closer knit group and less around broad reach and more about trying to get to know those people and get genuine value from them about my game. And finally, my email list. So once a month, I send out a newsletter to all of my email signups. It's a way of me trying to genuinely engage with the community and provide updates on what's happening. So in there, I'll talk about which conventions I've been to, which conventions might be coming up, how the game's coming along, and things like art updates or sneak peeks of things I'm working on. There's no rigid template, it's really just me trying to let people know what I've been up to. And a quick note again on free tools, I'm using MailerLite to back my email list. This was a conscious decision I made a few years ago when I started setting up a landing page because the free tier looked like it would more than meet my needs. However, their free tier plan has recently changed and you only get 250 emails for free. With that in mind, I'm already exploring some alternatives, but haven't quite decided which one I'll migrate to yet, as I'm still only at those 59 emails I mentioned earlier. So those are all the ways I'm trying to engage with people using Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Facebook videos to try and point people to my longer form content, which should hopefully provide them with even more value, and letting that value speak for itself over time in the hope that they then decide to subscribe. Similarly, my BGG posts are trying to achieve the same thing and directing people again to YouTube videos or my website articles if they prefer to read, where again, over time, I hope to build credibility with them and maybe get them on my email list. So a little bit about Principle 4 and letting the game speak for itself. There's a few ways I've been doing this. I offer a free print and play on email sign up. So when you sign up for my newsletter, you will also get a welcome email, which will include a link to a Google Drive where I have a full copy of Station Decimus free to download and play at home. Again, the idea here is that people will print that, play it, and if they enjoy it, be inclined to back in the future. The print and play is improving the overall health of my email list. This happens in a few ways. Number one, if people aren't opening emails from you, it can quickly become that your domain loses some of its credibility with mail deliverers, and you might find your emails ending up in people's junk. While this doesn't sound too bad for a welcome email, when it comes to a Kickstarter and you want to email everyone to let them know it's live, you really want to make sure your emails are being delivered. That free print and play gets people looking in their emails as soon as they sign up. If they don't see it, they'll check their junk folder, they'll open it and hopefully download the print and play. And all these are positive signals to email providers, meaning future emails are more likely to be successfully delivered to inboxes and not junk folders. The numbers to back this up, while I still only have 59 subscribers at the moment, my welcome email containing the link to the print and play has an 89% open rate. I'm no expert on open rates, but everything I've read suggests that this is a very strong number. It means that people are going and looking for the email explicitly and opening it up. This is a great sign and means that I have quite a healthy email list. The latest newsletter had around a 70% open rate, which again is a good indicator of a healthy list. As well as knowing how engaged your audience is, having a healthy email list also gives you a better idea of potential backers. So going into my campaign, I want to make sure I have the best understanding of how likely people from my email list are to subscribe. That's another reason for the monthly emails. It provides those interested people who might be mildly interested with the information to hopefully push them towards being very interested and eventually to being a backer. For those who don't think that the updates interest them or the direction of the game is for them, they might hit unsubscribe. And honestly, it's one of the best things they can do for the health of my email list. Yes, the number will go down. I will probably briefly feel slightly sad about it. But in the long run, I now have a better understanding of how many potential backers I really have in my email list. And as I mentioned before, it will improve the overall health of that list and the deliverability of my emails. And of course, now is a great time to plug that if you want to try the game yourself, you can head over to spacesluggames.com and grab yourself a free print and play copy. And if you don't like it, hit unsubscribe afterwards. That's the overall approach. I'm now about 6 weeks into it, so here's what I've learned and what I think is working, as well as what didn't. YouTube as a platform is still very new to me, and I'm still not quite sure how all of it works. Some of my YouTube shorts, for example, have had 2,000 plus views on them. Some of them, however, have had 1 view. I'm not sure why the algorithm has decided that that particular video shouldn't be shown to anyone, but it has. Instead, I'll continue to focus on consistency and patience. I expect as I do these things more, the algorithm will get a better understanding of my audience and who's interested in my content, and hopefully be better at making sure it shows it to those people. As I mentioned at the start of this video with the scoreboard, I think there are a few things that have led to those increased numbers this month. Now, these aren't all easily quantifiable, but I think it's worth going through them. A few weeks back, I wrote a BGG blog and posted a video about designer-publisher speed dating just after I'd done it. These were both picked up by different places and in different formats and shared out without any input from myself. So BGG's Geek Weekly posted about my BGG forum post, and that drove a lot more interest in that post, and I think there may have been some more email signups off the back of it. At the same time, Cardboard Edison's newsletter sent out a link to my YouTube video on the same topic, again going to show that Principle 1 and Principle 2 work together to push more people to the content and hopefully get them some value from it. Finally, Principle 4 in action, and less around the content strategy, but more about getting the game in front of people. I've sold 12 copies of Station Decimus at the Bastion Indie Market at UK Games Expo. One of these copies was taken away by someone who then went and played it with a friend who runs a blog on BGG. They then posted about the game, to which I replied asking if I could share a link to the email sign up, and they were happy for me to do so. I think this helped drive more traffic and interest in the game and probably accounts for a good chunk of that email subscriber increase. This wasn't me trying to reach out to a reviewer specifically. This was just a person who likes to blog talking about my game because I've tried to get copies out there. So that's the summary of the last few weeks since the previous episode in this series. Hopefully it's been interesting and met Principle 2, you found something useful in there. If you did, drop me a comment below and let me know which bits were particularly useful or if you have any questions. Next month, I'm hoping to go into more detail around some of my tactics on Principle 4 and getting copies of the game in front of people.